Uganda. Our case study was done in health facilities that handled traffic accident victims along Kampala-Masaka Road. Just to put you in context, in Uganda, road mortality, on average, every year, we get about 3,500 deaths. And this has been the average for the past 3 years. And the cost budget for those injuries has been estimated at about 1.8 trillion Uganda shillings. And as a result of the injuries we have in Uganda, there has been a big complaint from hospitals that their budgets are stretched to about 60% of their resources are used in emergency care. And when you look at one of the hospitals that we visited, which was Mulago, about 70% of the hospitalization were road traffic accident victims. And then, in addition to that, 60% of those reported broken legs and spinal cords and they had back injuries. Our particular intervention that we looked at was triggered by accidents that happened between 2015 and 2016, when we had over 200 deaths on Kampala-Masaka Road. And as I noted earlier, the hospital budgets were severely disrupted. And in 2016, we had, mid-2016, there was a sudden upsurge, which also claimed some traffic officers, and that was the trigger factor that actually caused several stakeholders to come together and initiate this operation. This was a multi-stakeholder initiative, and that initiative was intended to find ways of curtailing this endless chronic occurrence of accidents on that very road. But ever since the initiative took place, we've had some respite. We had a decline in the number of accidents, but all this has never been documented at all. And so the School of Public Health in Makerere, together with Uganda Police, came together to initiate this study so as to establish the cost savings that arose out of this operation that seemed to have had some good impact. So what was our study question? Our study question was, we were asking, did investment in a non-health sector generate cost savings to the health sector? Because traditionally we know that in order to get benefits in the health sector, you have to invest in the health sector. But here we are looking at a rather different scenario. Just to put you still in context, when we were analyzing, when we were conceptualizing this study, it was conceptualized around analyzing the different time periods when it was implemented. There were essentially 4 periods, and in the first period that you see to your left, to the extreme left, that was the normal period. We hypothesized that we were likely to see so many injuries in the period when that was the do-nothing, what we call the do-nothing period. That is the business as usual. Then in the next period that you see, that was the intensive phase when we had Fika Salama coming in, multi-stakeholders pooled their resources together to see that this intervention was quelled. And then later, because funds had kind of been depleted, the stakeholders withdrew. Some of them withdrew, but at least like Uganda Police remained on the road, but most of the stakeholders withdrew. So basically we were hypothesizing to see an increase in the number of injuries. Secondly, after that, because of the resurgence in RTAs, the stakeholders came back together and said, oh, we are losing it. So they came back and again re-intervened, but this time with less resources. They didn't have the amount of resources like they had in the first phase. So we had hypothesized that we're likely to see maybe a slightly less impact, and that's why you see the curve coming down. So we had 4 phases. We had the normal phase, just to take you through the key characteristics of those phases. The normal phase, it was business as usual. We had the normal checkpoints, we had occasional patrols, and we had the normal receipting system of culprits. I mean, like if a traffic officer found you had offended, you had rather gone against the law, they had the normal receipting system, whereby they even give you time of about 2 or more days to go and clear. But then, during the intensive phase, when stakeholders came together, okay, this time, things changed, business changed. The operations were enhanced, and you had high traffic enforcement of laws. You had multiple stakeholders involved. We had Ministry of Works, we had Uganda National Roads Authority, we had UPDF, the army came in to also offer some assistance, and we had, obviously, even the traffic police was the chief implementing agency. And then we had people were detained. The moment you were detained, you had to stay there overnight. It was not automatic that you pay and go. You had to stay overnight. You would be released the following day, but at least after spending a day in. And then we had patrols. We had police patrolling the road. So we no longer had these stationary checkpoints only, but they were beefed up by patrols. Then we had speed checks, vehicles were impounded, and driver's licenses had to be verified. So that was the intensive phase. Then you remember I said the implementers withdrew at some point. That's what we call the relaxed phase. It was lighter, generally. There was less activity, as you can see. Reduced stakeholder involvement, inadequate financing, and it was also characterized by a return to, it was characterized by withdrawal of instant prosecution. And then the last phase, it was what we called the reloaded phase. Basically, the operation came back on the road. So police enforcement was back on the road, but lighter. Financing, they had more finances, but not to the tune that they had in the second phase. And then we had also a return to the express penalty scheme. 3 minutes. Wow. So just to take, that was the methodology. Essentially, we collect our data, we did a desk review, we had stakeholder meetings, we had key informant interviews, and then we had, of course, a general quantitative survey from the police and health facilities, as you can see. And to analyze our data, we did an interrupted time series analysis, okay? And we had a cost analysis and a budget impact analysis. Just to take you through the methodology still, our time horizon, 2 calendar years, study areas, as I said, there were 6 health facilities, 9 police stations along the same road. Costs, where we used ingredient costing for all the inputs in the health facilities and in the police stations. Then we used the provider and the regulatory perspectives. The health providers were the health facilities. Then our effectiveness measures were the number of injuries, and then we also standard units of output. These are commonly used by Ministry of Health. And then our analytical approach, as I said, with the interrupted time series analysis for one group without controls. And also we did calculate our cost savings based on the cost differences between the intervention phases and the base phase, which was the normal phase. Then our study outcomes, as I said, were the standard units of output. Now, just to take you through, these were the plotted incidences in each month. What you see, what you see in that area, that was the normal phase. Okay, so when at media, so we have January 2016, then media, this is when the intervention started. You remember I said they were prompted by a sudden increase. You can see we had an increase from there to that. It was sudden. That prompted the intervention. Now, after the intervention started, media in July, that is end of July 2016, we started getting a decline in the number of accidents per month. This by the end of the year, we had, of course, this coming to an end. Okay, we went into 2017. This decline continued even after the withdrawal from the road, after this intensive phase. So basically, this one, what you see in this phase, this is the third phase, relaxed phase, is more or less a continuation of this. Okay, so the decline continued for another 6 months. Okay, then after, it almost came close to zero. Okay, that is again media the following year, 2017, and then later, you can see it starts again to rise from here, going back. That's what prompted the authorities to come back and say, no, we go back and arrest the situation. And then, but when they came in, initially we registered some little success, but later, because of reduced finances, basically people were limp, they were operating with a lot of hardships. Somehow the accidents started going up again. So from what I have just showed you, in terms of effectiveness, when you look at that trend line, those trend lines, Fika Salama was quite effective from the start of the intensive phase to the reloaded phase. That is the third last phase. 2, the effectiveness of the reloaded phase only lasted for a short period. You saw it was a gentle slope. And basically it lasted for only 4 months. The last 2 months, the accidents shot up and actually affected the costs. Then, but one thing you must note, that this increase in accidents basically affected both phases, though it affected the reloaded phase more. And just to show you, to summarize the costs, this was objective 2, to estimate and compare the medical costs of managing road crash injuries. The intensive phase and the reloaded phase. You find that the reloaded phase, mark this please, the reloaded phase had a higher number of cost savings, which are represented by the cost difference. Mark this. But this is not necessarily the conclusion. You are yet to see something else. Now, we went ahead and did a budget impact assessment, okay? Based on the trend of accidents by the end of the year, okay? When you go and look at the trend of events, you'll find that in 2016, when you look at the intensive phase, these costs were reducing by about 22%. When you do the budget impact analysis, you will find that it's not the reloaded phase that is more affordable. It is instead the intensive phase. Because for the intensive phase, it consistently came down. But this one, the dynamics had changed. Because of limited resources, the accidents started going back up. So we project that by the end of the 4 years, it will no longer be a feasible alternative. Okay, and that's the observation I've just made. If we had looked also at the non-medical costs, the costs that were incurred by police, okay, just to take you through, we had more non-medical costs incurred during the period when we had less deaths. Basically, every time they were spending a lot of money, we had maximum effectiveness in terms of low deaths and low injuries. Okay, so our recommendations are that scaling up adequately funded non-medical interventions like Fika Salama is a more cost-effective way of reducing RTAs in the long run. And also, we also made recommendation that reducing and subsidizing costs of nursing sundries, imaging and sonographic materials and orthopedic inputs is critical if the cost of RTAs is to be reduced. Thank you.